Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and welcome to a brand new week. Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I am your host, Coach Renz. We are here together at we go live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank all my members. Thank everybody who supports the channel through Cash App and through gifts and donations, super chats. Thank you very much. Quick reminder, we're having our meet and greet here in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. There's a description in the description of the video on YouTube and TikTok, Coach Renz 33. You'll be able to get you'll see the link for the hotel where we're going to have our event. And as far as like our agenda is posted here, where we're going to be spending time. I don't start taking on guests until after I do the lecturing part. So you have to hold on, Joseph. Hello, Joseph, but you have to hold on there. So when we meet in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd, we're going to have our meet and greet Friday night, 8 p.m., Devil's River. November 1st, we're having a business and money talk at the poolside at Downtown Drury Plaza. Then we are having a deconstructionist Q&A at the Japanese Tea Garden at 2 p.m. and then developing the community of deconstruction so that people lost family members and so on and so on. Hey, Teresa, what the Jabanga at 8 p.m. And then on November 2nd, we're going to have a sound bowl little meditation. Play with some sound bowls that morning at 7 a.m. Early rise. So that's the agenda for October 31st through November 2nd when we meet here in San Antonio. Look forward to you guys being there. Just go in the description of the YouTube video at Coach Renz 33 is the YouTube channel. Go into any of the recent lives, and you'll see the link to the hotel. All right. So today's discussion. So unlike how many others do it, we do it just a little bit different. We don't do this just a little bit different. So at around about the 5-minute mark, which we are at, where we at right now. So in about 2 minutes, I'm gonna get started on why I am saying that Isaiah is not about the Jesus character. Why Isaiah is not about the Jesus character is what we're going to discuss here. And there's some things that you have to understand about Isaiah before you deal with people in making this claim. There are actually many things to understand about Isaiah before making this claim. And this is one of the reasons why if you ever talk to a person who is Hebrew, who practice Judaism, this is one of the reasons why they do not accept Jesus as the prophet, the Jewish prophet, the Hebrew prophet, the Israelite prophet, whatever terminology you want to use it, prophet, right? And so we're going to break some of that down. And then, of course, I know that there's going to be some pushback, and that's fine. That's fine. All right. The suffering servant is you and me, right? Nope. Jake from State Farm? Nope. Stop trying to get ahead of me. Let's not get ahead of me. All right. So I give a few minutes so that people can get a chance to get on. That way, hopefully, I don't have to repeat myself as many times as I'm going to wind up having to repeat myself. So this is why we wait a few minutes. All right. Uh-oh. Am I out of fire? I'm out of fuel. I know y'all gonna have to hold up for a second. I'll be right back. Right back. All right. Can't have none of that. Can't have none of that. All right. Well, that was long enough of a delay. Now we're at the 5 minute mark. We can get started. All right. So we can hold some of your information, hold some of your questions for at least a few minutes. Okay. So one of the claims of those who are believers of the Bible is that the Jesus character fulfills over 600 prophecies within the Bible. Now, when you truly scholastically look at the Bible and study it and study the writings of the Old Testament and the writings of the New Testament, you're going to find many things that are just absolutely wrong. You're going to find out that when Matthew quoted that I call my son out of Egypt, that Matthew is not necessarily quoting the Bible in such a way that it refers to the character Jesus, that Matthew is actually quoting history, and he's quoting the history of what the Jewish people, what their history was, the Hebrew people's history of them when the God of the Bible said, I call my son out of that. Well, first, the God of the Bible claims that Israel is his firstborn son, and then claims that he is bringing his children, his son out of Egypt. And that in that passage that Matthew is quoting, it is also, the passage talks about how they will travel in the wilderness. They will worship many different gods. Every time there's as much love and that this God shows them, there's going to keep going back. So when Matthew quoted that, either Matthew was wrong and didn't understand the Hebrew writings, or well, he's just wrong and didn't understand the Hebrew writing, or he just simply lied in order to force it to make it look like it was talking about Jesus, but it's not. Now, the main consideration that we're talking about today, though, is going to be the fact of Isaiah. So although we can talk about many different aspects, and that's what I brought up the Matthew version, there are many different aspects where people are claiming that the Bible, the New Testament, is Jesus fulfilling the Old Testament prophecies. Isaiah is one of the primary ones that they like to run to. The problem with running to Isaiah is that Isaiah is not talking about Jesus at all. So what we look to demonstrate today is the fact that Isaiah is speaking in three different parts. This is why in most of the situations when you're dealing with, if you're writing a PhD paper, if you are holding a lecture on Isaiah, studying Isaiah beyond just going to church, beyond just sitting in Bible study, beyond just sitting in Sunday school, Isaiah has to be broken down into the three different parts. First Isaiah, second Isaiah, third Isaiah. This is not like saying First Chronicles, Second Chronicles. This is not like saying First Corinthians, Second Corinthians. This is not identifying First Isaiah, second and third in the same way that Corinthians is two different letters. This is the one book of Isaiah, to be clear. Now, the reason why it is called First Isaiah, Second Isaiah, Third Isaiah is because the book of Isaiah is not written by one author. The book of Isaiah is written by multiple authors. Or the book of Isaiah is written, if it is written by one author, then it is written at a time frame where it's recording history as if it is happening at the moment. But the scholastics, the consensus though, is that Isaiah is written by multiple authors. So the first part of Isaiah is written during the time frame before the Assyrians conquered the northern Israelite tribe, right? So when you start reading Isaiah, the first, and I'm gonna get some of the chapter where it breaks off wrong, but Isaiah 1, I believe, through 39. It might be a little bit early, it might be it's not later, I know from 40 on it's not. So at least Isaiah 1 through 39 is written prior to the Assyrian captivity. Isaiah 40 through 59 is written when they are being released, or about that time frame they're being released from the Babylonian captivity. Now, unless you're going to claim that Isaiah lived for over 200 years, we have a 200-year time frame that we're talking about just in that aspect of it, from the 700, the late 700s BCE, up until they were finally released by Cyrus in around 534. So we have about a 200-year time frame. And Isaiah did not live for 200 years to be able to write prior to the Assyrian captivity and being writing at the end of the Babylonian captivity. So, and this is the main thing that we have to understand here, is because we're looking at a time frame where Isaiah is, and the one that most Christians claim is during that second time frame, during the time frame between that 40 and 59. The chapters 40 through 59 is the one that most Christians claim that this is the Messiah, when in truth it is an impossibility that that would be the Messiah if you actually look at it. Now, y'all know one of the primary things that Christians like to say, Bible believers like to say, is that you're reading it out of context. You're looking at this out of context. You're not understanding it within the context of it. Isaiah demonstrates the belief that Isaiah is speaking about, this Jesus character, is quite plainly Christians taking prophecy, what is called a prophecy, deemed a prophecy from Isaiah, and taking it out of the context of what the writer is talking about. So when you read Isaiah 40 through 40 through 59, in every case, I'm going to ask you guys a question. From 40 all the way up to about 59, but primarily from 40 to 48. In multiple cases, the writer of Isaiah is saying that this God is proclaiming Jacob, Israel, as his servant, is proclaiming Israel as his servant. So if the author is constantly claiming Israel as his servant, do you think that when it gets to 53, that the servant is still Israel? So if you think the servant is still Israel, go ahead and put a 1 in the comment. If you don't think the servant is Israel, put a 2 in the comment. So we can see I want to see where people are standing. Want to see where you guys stand on that. Because we can look at Isaiah 41:8. We can look at Isaiah 44:1. There's Isaiah 49:3. In fact, let's look at, let me go to some of these. Because so that you won't just think, oh, he's just saying that. Right? Isaiah 49. So Isaiah 49 says, "Listen to me, O coastlands. Pay attention, you people from far away. The Lord has called me before I was born." Right? Listen, the Lord has called me before I was born. While I was in my mother's womb, he named me. He made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand, he hid me. He made me a polished arrow in his quiver. He hid me away. He said to me, "You are my servant Israel, in whom I will be glorified." So who is the servant? Who is the servant? Servant is Israel, right? He is the servant is Israel. And that's the context that the author's put in. Let's go to another one. Let's go to 41. Let's go to Isaiah 41. Isaiah 41 is the main verse is verse 8. All right. Oh, but you Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the offspring of Abraham, my friend. So it's referring to Israel as the servant. And you remember that Jacob had his name changed to Israel to represent the people. So he's referring to Israel as the servant, as a servant. I keep saying serpent. Let's see. Let's go to another one. Let's go to another one. Isaiah 44. But now hear, O Jacob, my servant, Israel, whom I have chosen. Thus says the Lord, who made you and formed you in the womb and will help you. He's referring to, and do not fear, O Jacob, my servant, Jeshurun, whom I have chosen. So he is referring to, this is during Isaiah, this is during the Babylonian, when they're being released from the Babylonian captivity. Their reference is not to Jacob as an individual, but he's referencing Israel, the people. So when it comes to Isaiah 53, he is constantly referring to the children, the Israelites, as Jacob, as Israel, as his servant. So when it gets to Isaiah 53, what Christians like to do, Bible believers like to do, well, no, these are Christians like to do, is to then say that 53 is talking about the suffering servant, that the suffering servant is Jesus. The suffering servant would still be Israel, and they are leaving Babylonian captivity. So, of course, the reference to this is to the people, to that time frame of them leaving, right? So the suffering servant narrative actually starts in 52, where he starts talking about, "See, my servant shall prosper." This is 52:11. "He shall be exalted and lifted up and shall be very high." I'm not going to read this whole damn thing, but he shall be lifted very high, just as there were many who were astonished at him, so marred with his appearance beyond human semblance, and his body is beyond that of mortals. He shall startle many nations. Kings shut their mouths because of him. I don't know many kings shut their mouth because. But this is talking about how Israel has suffered under Assyrians, how battered Israel were, how disfigured Israel was, how they were under the power of other people. So it is not speaking of the Jesus character. It's talking about how the battering that was going on with the people of Israel as they were under the control of another person and another country, and then to see it as a nation and utilizing human personifications towards it is a common thing that we still do to this day. We still do that to this day. When we will talk about a country, we'll give it a he or she, a motherland or a fatherland. So we still have that same thing. So because it says he, doesn't make it into a situation that we're talking about, oh, this is an individual person. No, it's still talking about a people. So the question is, why do Christians do this? They want to have the Old Testament, and they want it to fulfill because they know that their basis of their belief has to fit with the Old Testament. So when the early writers, whoever wrote the Gospels, when they was writing this, especially Matthew, they were grasping at straws for whatever they could to make it seem like we're going to change this Judaism into this Christianity. We're going to flip it and reform Judaism by saying that the Messiah has already come and that this Messiah is this dude who we are claiming that died. And even though none of us were eyewitnesses to it, we're just going to claim it. And so they went back, and in order to convince the Jewish population, which is Matthew is the primary one, Matthew is written towards the Jewish population. So he went back to try to figure out different ways that this would apply to this new character, Jesus. And so 53 became one of those parts of it. They said, okay, this, even though it has been well established that this is talking about the Israelites as they are leaving out of Babylon, we are going to say no. This was talking about Jesus, even though everything else around it, all the other context demonstrates that the servant is Israel, the people, the nation of Israel. No. We're going to snatch this one little part and take it out of the context and make this one little part seem to be talking about this Jesus character. So, what do you guys think in concern with this, in consideration with this? Do you think that this is one of the prophecies? Let me not ask the question yet. If the Jesus character can't fulfill this prophecy, then the Jesus character definitely is not, because this is not a prophecy. That's the first thing. Isaiah 53 is not a prophecy. Isaiah 53 is a statement of what was going on with those people at that time frame. Now, the other one that they call a prophecy, that is somewhat of a prophecy, I believe that's, I had it in my, I didn't bring my notes in here with me. I think that's Isaiah 7. Yes. Isaiah 7 becomes the other big one that they will pull out of the rabbit's hat, right? Although they often read a incorrect translation of it. So, are you a Bible? I know you're not talking about it. If you're asking me, I don't believe in this Bible at all. So I want you to hear this one. And the translation, one, makes a huge difference. But even without the translation, even if the translation is incorrect, you will still find that all the wording around it cannot apply to the Jesus character. So when you go to Isaiah 7, the first thing that you have to understand in Isaiah 7 is the fact that at this time frame, the northern kingdom of Israel has formed an alliance with other kingdoms. King Ahaz, or Ahaz, King Ahaz, he's pissed about this. He doesn't like the fact of this, right? And Isaiah supposedly comes to him, and then, see, this is one of the reasons why you know that this is written. This is Isaiah chapter 7. So, like I said earlier, the first part of Isaiah is before the Assyrians conquer the northern tribe of Israel, because at this point, the northern tribe of Israel has made a treaty with this northern, and have allied themselves with northern kingdoms. So it hasn't been attacked yet. We know that 44 and 48 and 53, that is after the Babylonian captivity. But in this one, in 7, first Ahaz is like, I don't need a sign from God and so on and so forth. But then Isaiah's like, well, now I'm gonna tell you what a prophecy is. I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. So Isaiah prophesies to King Ahaz. And when you get to about verse 10, he says, again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, ask, is that 10 where I want to start? Yeah. Ask a sign of the Lord your God. Let it be deep as Sheol, or high as the heavens. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, and I will not put the Lord to the test. So Ahaz is like, I ain't trying to. Then Isaiah said, hear, O house of David, is it too little for you to weary mortals, that you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, a young woman is with child. Now your King James version is going to say something like a young woman will be with child or will conceive a child. But in the actual Hebrew, it says, and in the Septuagint, it says, which is Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. It says the young woman is with child. He's talking about right now, during the time frame that he's dealing with Ahaz. During the time frame he's fighting a battle against northern Israel and the people that northern Israel have linked up with. That a young woman will be with child. Now, is the with child a young woman with child and bear a son, and his name shall be Emmanuel? Is the young woman with a child and bearing a son, and his name shall be Emmanuel? Is the primer here? Is the everything? Is the what is needed? No, it is the part that you have to read right after that. He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse good and evil, and by the time he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child knows how to refuse evil and choose the good, the land before whose kings you are in dread will be deserted. The Lord will bring on you and your people and on your ancestral house such days have not yet come since the days of Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. So what's the primary here? What's the primary thing? It's not the fact that a child is born and it has anything to do with the child doing anything. It is simply saying that by the time a woman who is with child right now and will give birth, she's with child right now, she will give birth. His name will be Emmanuel. By the time that child becomes old enough to be able to choose good over evil, you will have defeated your enemies. King Ahaz will have defeated his enemies. So, hey, dude, the prophecy is within a few years of going into war against your enemies, they will be defeated. This has nothing to do with a Jesus character. Not one iota. Not one thing to do with Jesus. Not one thing to do with a prophecy that goes beyond the reign of King Ahaz. Which I always like Ahaz. So what the Bible believers do is they just take that one little part, and the King James version at least flip a young woman is with child into a young woman will conceive. And the word that was used there in the Hebrew, it wasn't Bethula, which would mean a virgin. So, damn, the word just slipped out of my mind. Alma. The word that was used there was Alma, which means a young woman, right? It is in the Greek that they flipped it in the New Testament and chose the word virgin. But and they just took that part. A young woman is with child and she will bear a son and name him Emmanuel. He will eat curds and honey by the time he knows to refuse good and evil. And they left it right there. They left out the rest of it. They left out all the rest. So there is absolutely no way Isaiah is prophesizing Jesus. No way. So with that, just those two alone, even though there are many other prophecies that the Jesus character never fulfills, the prophecy of him riding in on a donkey. If you go back and look at that one, I forget exactly where that's at. That, if you read that one, what I do remember from it is that he's supposed to, a war in Israel is supposed to stop when he rides in on a donkey. That he ends all the wars. And that simply does not happen. Let's bring in a guest. And so we have to, those things have to be there. You got to have the whole thing. Life.
Good evening, Bill.
How you doing? Are you over? You're over 20. You're over 18. You're over 21.
Oh, pardon, what you say?
Are you over 21?
I'm 38.
Okay. Are you a believer?
Yeah, I'm Muslim.
Okay. And so this is about deconstructing Christianity. So help me.
Yeah, it's okay. I have read it. It is 100% true. What they are presenting in this time, the name Jesus, it cannot exist the real person whom you are talking about, Isaiah. And this is totally different. It is a Roman documentary and Roman thoughts, what they make and write.
Okay, so you're agreeing that Isaiah was not talking about the Jesus character?
Yeah, it is different, totally different what these people they are presenting.
Right. So what was Isaiah talking about?
This one, when we read this all history, right now what the book is there, when we see it have added different chapter in different time, like even still in Ethiopia we have different Bible. So it's okay, they was writing. What they're presenting, even the Jesus, it is not that is the real person who was presented in the Israel in that time 2000 years ago.
Okay. So you're talking about who the Christians present Jesus as 2,000 years ago is not the real person, but I'm assuming you're meaning that Islam presents the real Jesus.
Okay, this one which they are presenting Jesus, which they are presenting his picture like that, even they are making him a white, he was not a white.
That
number one.
Okay.
His hair was rounding, like in Ethiopian we have people, they are like Arab and Ethiopian, they are mixed. Their color is not pure white, but it is also not very black.
Okay.
But these people, what they're presenting, it is different. The real son of Mary, he was a prophet of God and he was taken to the cross, but he not complete the cross. He was removed in very early 3 to 6 hours.
Okay, so
he was taken.
Yeah, stop. Okay, so you're not here to talk about the subject matter. You're here to try to present Jesus as the Islamic version of Jesus, which there's no validity within that either. But this is a deconstructing Christianity channel, not a deconstructing Islam channel. Sometimes I do entertain it, but you're just proselytizing, and I have no desire for preaching.
No, I'm talking about this one. I'm picking those all verses. What I'm talking, it is from Bible. I'm not presenting any single verse from Quran.
No, but you're talking about hair colors and hair design and skin tone. I don't care. That doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about. We was talking about the ethnicity of Jesus. Then yeah, that's the conversation. But that's not what we're talking about.
Okay, that's what I was saying. What he has done, these books are showing different, but it is still show from their books what they're presenting. It is not true.
Okay.
According
about
their book,
Isaiah,
he was removed. He was removed early on third day.
Okay, are you gonna? You're not talking about the subject, man. Look, you got to talk about the subject. Don't come on here and you want to talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about. If you want to talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about, do your own podcast. Okay? I'm not trying to be mean about it, but I put a title up. See what it's about. If you don't want to talk about what it's about, you want to talk about something else, go do your own podcast or go find somebody else who's talking about what you want to talk about. I'm not trying to, this is not a debate about is the Christian Jesus the real Jesus or the Muslim Jesus the real Jesus? Because if that was the discussion, ain't neither one of them the real Jesus. Because neither one of your books has got the real Jesus. You know, the real Jesus is a legendized literary character. That's the real Jesus. So I'm not here for all that. And y'all over there on YouTube, stop paying attention to Primer. Y'all have seen Primer on the show multiple times. You've seen Primer is not an honest person. You know that Primer is got conscious bias, confirmation bias, conscious dissonance. So I don't even know why y'all over there paying him any attention. That's why I just been steadily ignoring the hell out of him. The only time I let Prime up is when I'm truly bored. Truly. Beyond that. So look, if you want to come up on the show, come up on the show about the conversation that we have. All right. All right. So stop coming up here with your other bullshit. These people are funny. Like, look, I know y'all can't see it on TikTok. Well, over here on YouTube, probably telling me he live rent free in my mind. Here's what's funny. I never even think about that man until I see him pop up on here and make a whole bunch of comments. I don't think about him. It amazes me how people think and have their own thought process about things and about people, and you don't. I don't think about you. I don't think about you. I don't think about you. I don't think about Fred. Hell, on my regular videos that I post on a daily basis, I don't even read y'all comments 99% of the time. I don't even read their comments. Fred made a comment. Scroll. Probably made a comment. Scroll. So anyway, but for those who are deconstructing, I really want you to go and do more research beyond the things that I told you, beyond the things that I talked about. I hate saying I told you. Beyond the things that we talked about, beyond the idea that the fact that Isaiah 53 is talking about Israel is the suffering servant. Israel as a nation was battered. Israel as a nation was bruised, because after you continue to read past Isaiah 53, it talks about how the world is going to come and marvel at the fact that this God has redeemed Israel, and now the world will know that this God is the real God for what he has done for Israel, and that Israel is going to be glorified because of that. So it is not talking about Jesus, because Jesus didn't fulfill the things that he claimed even Israel would do, and Israel didn't even fulfill it. As soon as Israel were released by Darius, they were conquered then by the Greeks. Right? And they still was a vassal state of the Persians, and they had a semblance of freedom. They were still living under the banner of Persia, not their own banner. And then when Alexander comes in, they are under Greek. So this whole thing that Isaiah was talking about, even that was not fulfilled. And even if you were to look at Israel today as a nation, and whether you recognize these real Israelites, not even getting into that, they still have not fulfilled what Isaiah is talking about would happen with Israel once they were reestablished into their land. So it's still an unfulfilled prophecy on either case. Whether you're talking about the Hebrews, the Israelites, or you're talking about them. Now, so truly understand how Isaiah 53 does not talk about Jesus. And definitely, I don't even understand how pastors, I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand how pastors can sit there and use Isaiah 7 and say that that is prophesied about Jesus. Come on, y'all. How can Isaiah 7? We just went through it. We just read it. It says that a young woman will give birth to a son. Name him Emmanuel. And before he can learn the difference between before he learns how to refuse evil and accept good, your enemies will be defeated. How is that about Jesus? I really want to know how that is about Jesus, especially when, and you can't read that King James version, but how in all the levels of hell is that about Jesus? It's just an impossibility. Um, there's a song, I can't remember exactly which one it is. There's a song that from back in the day that people used to always claim was about Jesus. Shit. I'm not sure if I can remember exactly which one it is that I want to try to find real quick. But there was a song. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like it's this guy. He's lamenting about the fact that he's not all that smart. He wants to, he wants to know, but he was like, is humans aren't going to know because nobody's been to heaven and back. The Lord said, this is Psalms 110. Somebody put up here. The Lord says to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool. The Lord sends out from Zion your mighty scepter, ruler in the midst of your foes. Your people will offer themselves willingly on the day you lead your forces on the holy mountains. From the womb of the morning, the new dew of the youth, I will come to you, the Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are the priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. The Lord is at your right hand. He shall shatter the kings in the day of his wrath. He will execute judgment among the nations, filling them with corpse. Uh, he will shatter heads over the wide earth, and he will drink from the streams by the path. Therefore, he will lift up his head. This is a song about David. This is not a song about. Uh, this is not about Jesus. This is a song about David and how David will be victorious over his enemies. Uh, See, when you just grab something, that's just grabbing something and making it try to sound like Jesus. That is not Jesus. When did Jesus become a king? When did Jesus sit on the throne as a king? When did Jesus rule in the midst of his foes as a king? That didn't happen. When did Jesus lead his forces? Lead the people out as a force. When did that happen? I don't think Jesus was leading a force of people in a military understanding. Mm-mm. Nope. So y'all like that part. You are a priest in the order of Melchizedek. Oh, that's Jesus. Because the writer in the New Testament quotes and says the same thing. No, no. Mm-mm. And see, that's the they want to take something that was clearly about one person and try to make it about their Jesus. And see, can y'all have anything that is proof other than just crying, just screaming stuff? And so just say, no one can debunk the scriptures. Your scriptures have been debunked on multiple occasions. Like we've shown on this channel multiple times how the Bible contradicts itself. Um, so no. Just last week, no. Can't even get the birth story right. No. In this instance, you can't even get the birth in Isaiah 7 right. So no. Mm-mm. Uh, oh my goodness. It's sad when the only person who is offering up anything of a defense is somebody who I don't find to be an honest person. Now, when I say I don't find him to be an honest person, I let me be clear to say intellectually honest. I don't find him to be an intellectually honest person. So let's see here without the bullshit of long ass rhetoric. Matthew 22, 41 through 45. While the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, "Who do you think? No, what do you think about the Messiah? Whose son is he?" "The son of David," they replied. He said to them, "How is it that David, speaking by the Spirit, calls him Lord? For he says, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet.' Then David calls him Lord. How can he be his son?" No one could say a word in reply. And from that day, no one dared ask him any more questions. Well, I doubt the part ain't nobody asked me any more questions. He said to him, "How is that David, speaking by the Spirit, calls him Lord? For he says, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand.'" That doesn't prove that Jesus is still not fulfilling Psalms 22, well, Psalms 110. Like, how do y'all make these extreme jumps in correlation? Because he says, "Sit at my right hand and I'll make your enemies a footstool." And because this Jesus quotes that same thing to the Pharisees, that this means that Psalms was prophesied in Jesus. So if I say that on today, little black girls and little black boys, they walk hand in hand with one another, being judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, just kind of making it seem like Dr. King was right. That makes Dr. King a prophet. That make me a son of Dr. King, both. I'm born in Atlanta. Y'all not making sense. There's nothing about that demonstrates that it is the fulfillment of a prophecy. And the fact of the matter is, as far as David defeating his enemies, that was something that, according to the Bible, happened. David defeated his enemies. So it's something that David did. It's nothing that the Jesus character did. And there's nothing in here that says that your seed, that David's seed is going to be the seed that is going to conquer his enemies, but this is that David will conquer those enemies. So no, that don't work. You know, I'm surprised. figured many a Christian would want to jump up here today to proclaim Isaiah to be prophesizing Jesus. I'm shocked. Shocked, completely shocked. Um, for this thing. What are you talking about? Who does Clive Jacob do? So trying to claiming that some you picking just one little scripture here and there and saying debunk this. This is somebody who was trying to say that they reported seeing something. Now, if somebody claims they saw Bigfoot today, okay, we can excavate the area on that day. You trying to tell somebody who said that Jesus and this whole situation where he was supposedly transfiguring and saying that I haven't touched me not for I have not seen 17. Where is this? This Matthew version? And said unto him, I sent unto my father and your father, and to my God and your God. Touch me not. This is stupid to bring this up as something to debunk. For I am not yet ascended to my father, but I go to my brother. So this is something I don't know which part of the Bible this is, but that is part of the resurrection story. The easiest way to debunk the whole fucking resurrection story is the fact that each one of the resurrection story has a different is a different storyline. Was the Jesus character who were the first ones there? Was it Mary? The only person that's consistent is Mary Magdalene. In every other version, there's different people who are there by name. Now we were talking about just general crowds of people. That's one thing. But when you're talking about people by name, when it's Salome or is it Mary, the mother and the other Mary? Did Peter go there, or did Peter get outran by another young dude? You know, when you got all these are very specific differences. Where was the angel? Top of the rock, descending, two inside the tomb, two outside the tomb, one at the head, one at the foot. Where you at? An earthquake happens. How the hell you miss an earthquake? How you miss a whole damn earthquake? You see, your resurrection stories debunk themselves because each story is different. Where are we going to meet Jesus? Oh, let's meet him in Galilee. Nope, going to meet him in Jerusalem. Nope, going to meet him in Bethany. They can't even get where they're going to meet up. Now, if it was, did we meet in the room on the left or the room on the right? Okay. But different damn cities? Clyde, you need to read your Bible, bro. Now, you didn't get me on nothing. You need to read your Bible because your one little statement. See, that's what I'm saying. One little thing. Yeah. Sure. I'll give you that. You can you can find a scripture that there's really nothing to talk about because there's nothing to talk about it. As far as the transfiguration, don't touch me, I have not ascended. That's really nothing to talk about. But we talk about the whole resurrection story in itself. There's plenty of things within that story that you can debunk. You can show that it is a bunch of people just making shit up. And then therefore, it probably all that shit never happened. The person that might have been crucified for sedition, that fucker just died and that's it. Nothing else happened. There was no resurrection. There was no women running and different. Don't know which woman was running. There's no meeting that in Bethany or Galilee or Jerusalem. There's no meeting. Get your story straight. There's no evidence of any of it. So no. So no, sir. Okay, I see what type of person Clive is. Clive is, you know how they always try to tell us, oh, you're taking this out of context, you're taking that out of context, you're not putting these things in context. This is a person who's taking one verse and then takes the one verse and says, oh, debunk that, debunk that, right? So this is hilarious to me because to me, this reeks of desperation, Clive. Reeks of desperation. Isaiah 55, hold everyone in that thirst, come you are. So Isaiah 55, just the whole chapter, you just, what are you talking about? Because if you go and you look at Isaiah 55, there, buddy, you go and look at Isaiah 55, this is after they are coming out of the Babylonian captivity, right? And so they are talking about Israel, talking about the people of Israel. This is not talking about Jesus. So if we're talking about Israel, how does this, and this is no way justifies the Jesus character or is even speaking of the Jesus character. You fellas are stupid. Yeah. I wonder if you ever read your whole Bible or have you just sat in a church and people say this scripture, say one little scripture and then you just run with that one thing. Okay, he's really not worth my time. If there's, and especially you're not making sense. I forgot to put the link out here. Primer, I can go ahead and tell you if you click on the link, I'm not bringing you up. So you're not coming up with Primer. I can tell you that right off the bat. I have no tolerance for your dishonesty intellectually. So Primer, don't even hit the link. Just save yourself the time. Even though usually the only times I do let you up if I'm bored or no one else wants to come up. But I find it's still a waste of my time. So I put it out there, but just don't click it. Clive, you can click it. Okay, so I just finished telling this man that I'm not going to bring him up. Why would he click on it? What do you think? I'm going to give in or something? Uh, Jesus didn't come from the line of David. Well, technically, it does, but it doesn't come from the line through Solomon. But he technically does come through the line of David, since you know there was no immaculate conception. So in the Catholic immaculate conception, I think they are referring to Mary's birth, that she was born without sin. Uh, but it just means an amazing birth anyway. But the Jesus, that's Joseph's son. That's Joseph's son. But they wouldn't be able to sit on the throne anyway. And one of the things about the Messiah is that he's supposed to be able to sit on the throne. Right? The Christians try to make it some metaphorical throne, but it's not. He's supposed to sit on the throne in Israel. He's supposed to rule Israel. Jesus never sat on a throne. He was never declared king. Uh, Fred, have you finally got your Fred Adams? Remember something about your whatever you're using, your microphone and your camera don't have to be on, but it has to have access to your microphone and camera. So you got to grant access. Right? You keep saying you want to come on here, but every time you do, It says that your microphone is messed up. So I need you to fix that. All right. I'm just going to open up the conversation to almost anything now because, I mean, otherwise I'd just be sitting here repeating myself. Um, oh, this is an interesting thing right here. This is interesting. This is one of those things that they try to say, what does Cain and Abel represent when Cain killed Abel in the field? So this is where people place their religion into their own time frame to make things mean stuff. Cain and Abel, the story is to the Hebrew people, the ancient Hebrew people who was writing this, the people telling this story in the 700s BCE up until it was first written down. Uh, they were telling this as a history of their people, how their people came about. Adam is their first man. Eve is his wife. They have children, Cain and Abel. Uh, Cain kills Abel. Abel's line is a horrible line. Seth replaces Abel. And then it says that Adam and Eve had multiple other children that are unnamed. So they are trying to draw a line of succession from Adam through Seth, through Noah, through Shem, to become the people of Israel as God's chosen people. And from Shem, you go up through Abraham and so on and so forth. Um, so the Cain, see, without the flood, you would be able to say, oh, well, Cain represents all these other people, all these other tribes. But now what you can do now is take it into a level of saying, well, Abel represent the one who gave God his best, and you got to give God your best. Cain is the one who didn't give God his best, so you always got to give God best. That's one. The other one is sibling rivals. You can make it a representation about sibling rivalry. You can make it a representation of Cain's line is the one that started looking at taking life into their own hand and developing civilization instead of being focused on God, like Seth was focused on God because his line was the first one to start calling on the name of the Lord, basically creating religion. So you can symbolize it in a whole bunch of different things depending on what you want to make it into. But what it really is a bunch of people who trying to create their own history. Mm-hmm. I knew this was going to be the answer because if you was listening, you would have heard me give a bunch of different things that it could represent because these are the multiple things that people have said that it represents to them and what they believe or their line or whatever it is. So you have this one thing that it represents to you. I could have went on about how to the Sethians, Cain represents the seed of the devil and Eve having a baby together, and Cain is the serpent child, and go down that rabbit hole. People make representations of things to fit whatever narrative they want. So even whatever you deem, which you've made a lot of statements but haven't provided any thought process, but you can make the Bible mean whatever you want it to mean. This is why there are 11 different variations of Christianity. This is why there are different variations of Judaism, different variations of Islam, because people read the same goddamn scripture and they change it to make it mean whatever they want it to mean. See, it's just like this. Now, I don't know what particular argument Fred is talking about. Why did Enki arguing with his brother over what? It depends. Are you talking about when Enki was arguing with Enlil over the fact that it was Marduk's turn to rule? Are you talking about when they were arguing over who was when that Enki should be ruling Earth? Are you should be the ruler at the time frame after his father Anu? Are you talking about the argument that they was having over whether or not to create a slave race? Are you talking about when they was arguing over whether the Gigi should continue to do the work? What argument are you talking about? There's a plethora of arguments that are talked about in the Enlil Enki storyline. So these little vague comments mean nothing. See, look. So Clive didn't specify. What does Cain and Abel mean? Okay, I gave you 11 different variations of different people's thought processes. Did Clive come back and say, no, it means this? No, it represents nothing that you said. Supposed to say said, not sent. He wrote sent. The representations are found in the New Testament. You can't answer. The basic Christian rhetoric of I don't have an answer. I just want to scream and shout. I just want to scream and shout. I can't answer anything. I can't make any statements because they know that if they make a statement, they got to hold truth to it and demonstrate it. What is it, Mr. What's it?
It's just ball. Just a ball.
Oh, Abel. Abel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you over 21?
Oh, I'm 41.
Okay. And are you a believer?
20 years plus.
20 years plus. 20 years plus. Oh, believing? In what God?
Believer.
Excuse me?
I believe in. I believe in us as a people, but as a God, I'm confused because I've studied science to a certain degree, so I'm not like a professional scientist, but I get information from multiple and multitudes, and I feel that so many young people, so many like adults my age, well, like we call us the old millennials or young millennials, all of that. I feel like we are misled or misunderstood, and we're not getting the information that we need to move forward. So I apologize. I didn't mean to come here to rant and rave. I want some clarification.
Okay. Clarification on what?
So really about Jesus. Isaiah is not about Jesus.
Oh.
What is that? Can you explain to me what that means? Or explain to not only to me, but to like everybody else my age who doesn't know about Isaiah or the relationship between Isaiah and Jesus? And I'm sorry, I'm gonna shut up.
So because the first time that and not to sound rude, but the first time I explained it, it took like 20 minutes. So I'm gonna do this.
I wasn't here yet.
I'm gonna do this. I know it happens every week. Don't worry about it. So I always have a condensed version of the longer version. So in the condensed version, most of the time when people are growing up in Christianity, they are taught that Isaiah 53 is prophesizing about Jesus as being the suffering servant, because look at what happened to Jesus according to the Gospels. What they do not tell the people is that when you read Isaiah 53 and everything around Isaiah 53, this is during the time frame that they are leaving Babylonian captivity. And so they are from 40 all the way to 59, Israel is described as the servant of God, as being the servant. So Isaiah 53 is talking about Israel as a nation, not talking about an individual person. Isaiah 7 is talking about, and this is the other main one out of Isaiah that they like to use, Isaiah 7 is talking about a prophecy given to King Ahaz at the time frame prior to the Assyrian conquering of Israel. And that before a child is old enough to know the difference between good and bad, that good and evil, that King Ahaz will have defeated his enemies. So it had nothing to do with Jesus. It had something to do with what was going on prior to 700 BCE. So the other part is Isaiah could not have, the same author could not have written in prior to 700 BCE and also be writing around 539 BCE, because that author would have had to live for like 200 plus years. So it's not about Jesus, it's about Israel, and it's about a baby, a king being able to defeat his enemies before a child come of age. So,
I'm sorry, that's pretty deep.
So are you?
If you don't mind me asking, before I heard that last part, before a child becomes of age.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how do we prepare our children? Pretty much is what I'm asking. Like, how do we prepare our children before they become of age? Maybe I'm turning it. I think I hope I'm not missing it. I'm sorry, could you? I know I sound stupid, and I do apologize. So, I just would like for you to further explain exactly what you meant. I apologize, it's my fault.
Okay.
Could you further explain that just for a little bit, like that? What did you mean by it? What did you mean?
Okay, so in the Isaiah 7, so first I'll read it to you so that you can hear what it says. All right. So just from verse 10 to like verse 17. Again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz. So we're talking, the Lord is speaking to Ahaz. Ahaz is the king of Judah at the time. Ask a sign of the Lord your God. Let it be deep as Sheol or high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, and I will not put the Lord to the test. Then Isaiah said, hear then, O house of David, it is too little for you to worry mortals, that you may worry my God also. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, a young woman is with child, not will be, but is with child, and shall bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel. He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse good and how to refuse evil and choose good. For before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whom two kings you are in dread will be deserted. The Lord will bring on you and onto your people and onto your ancestral homes. Such days have not come since the day of Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. So you see how it's saying that it's just saying that before the child knows how to refuse evil and choose good, this is the primary, the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted. So Isaiah is telling King Ahaz that before this child knows how to choose, how to refuse evil and choose good, you will have defeated your enemies. So it's not so much about how to bring up a child or what teaches a child how to know the difference between good and evil and to choose good over evil. It's just saying in a general sense, when the average time frame that a child knows the difference between these two, you will have defeated your enemies, because the northern kingdom of Israel had signed had gained a treaty with, I think, Samaria at that time frame. And King Ahaz was like, that's bullshit. And so, and all of this is before,
opposed. He was opposed.
He was deposed?
Opposed. He was opposed to the thought or the train of thought of that, of what you just said.
I did not understand you right there.
I'm sorry.
Say that again.
I said he was opposed to the train of thought of I don't know how to put it. He was just opposed to that's exactly what you just said in the Bible, in the scripture. He was opposed to it.
Supposed to what?
Isn't it to like this? When it comes to the children. I'm different. I apologize.
So it's really a straight line. It's really a straight line.
There you go. Give me the straight line. Give me the straight line. I apologize.
And okay, I'm trying to make it
super simplistic.
Right.
Childlike. I am so sorry. I do apologize. It's on me. It's on me because I did not do the research. It's on me. It's on me. So I do apologize. I'm just asking.
Okay. So basically, let's say, okay, I got it. Let's say King Hazaz is the Confederacy, right?
Yes.
And let's say the Israelite kingdom is the North.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now you know the Northerners had formed an alliance with France.
Yes.
All right.
And British.
Right, but just France and Britain.
All right.
So
okay, fine,
just leave that. They formed an alliance. You know, Jefferson Davis, who is Ahaz in this situation, didn't like the fact that they formed that alliance.
Yes.
So imagine General Lee coming to Davis and saying, hey, there's a woman in Atlanta who just gave birth, who's with child, but before that child is, 4 or 5 years old, being able to know the difference between good and bad, we gonna defeat the North and France and England. That's all that's happening there. Isaiah is telling Azaz, before your enemies, which one of them was your brother, your kinsman, before your kinsman who made an alliance with the foreigners, before this child right over here gets about 4 or 5 years old, you're gonna win this war. That's what's going on in that chapter, in that verse. Chapter.
Okay.
So that has nothing to do with 500 years. Well, actually, this will be almost 800 years later, Jesus being born. So that's why it's not a prophecy.
It's 800 years though.
Yeah, because this is happening.
They don't teach that in the chapter books. So
no.
I apologize for not knowing.
Yeah, they're not going to teach you the history of it.
I apologize for not knowing.
So the whole deal with Isaiah should be broken down into 3 parts. You got so chapters 1 through about 39. All of that is happening before they are conquered by the Assyrians. So the Assyrians conquer northern Israel and then go down into Judah in around 722 BCE. Right, and they become vassal states of the Assyrians. After they are now 44, so then around 40 through 50.
And if you don't mind me, and I apologize, forgive me for cutting you off. In today's time, what would that be? Like today's or back in that time to today's time? What would that be? Like the Syria of old versus the Syria of does that make sense?
Yeah. Assyria would be like that'd be Turkey, around Turkey, Lebanon, Turkey. Yeah. pretty much Lebanon, Turkey, that kind of area. Actually,
that's
that's a good question. Well, let me make sure. I'm quite positive that, yeah. Well, okay.
From old maps to new maps.
Yeah, so the primary Assyrians, even though their empire conquered greater lands, the primary Assyrians actually would be, that looks like it'll be let's look at it, be northeast Turkey, northeast, and then northwest Iran, Iraq kind of area. Shit,
okay.
It might even be Afghanistan. I don't think it's Afghanistan.
Close, kind of Russian, like close. You said northeastern.
Oh. So let me bring up a modern day Middle East map. So I can. Yeah, that's.
I do apologize. I just. I would love to, and I think a bunch of us young black men would love to, further have in depth, and how, and don't get me wrong, with the white tea community, they have like facts and stuff. I'm just trying to, I would like to also have my facts. So let's say I have a conversation about this later on in the future. I want to just make sure that, hey, I know where to get my facts and I know what's up. Like, hey, look, you guys are wrong, or, in any kind of circumstance or happenstance. So that's what I'm saying. If you could just help me find the information, because a lot of us don't have it and it's not taught to us.
Right. So, but let me put it in context for you though.
Yes, sir.
So that area would be this kind of like where Syria, northern Iran, Syria, northern Iraq, northwest Iran, and southeast Turkey all kind of merge in together in that area would be the primary Assyrians. And then, but they spread themselves from all the way into Iran, across most of Iraq, down through Syria, Turkey, into the Baltics, and then down through the whole Israel, Jordan, Sinai, into northern Egypt. Now, those people back then are not the same people who are there now, because they were then, because prior to that, they were the Sumerians and Akkadians. And then after that, they then get conquered by the Persians, and then they get conquered by the Greeks, and then they get conquered by the Romans. So you got a whole lot of mixing going on. So the people who are left there today, they would become the Arabs of that. But through all of that mixing is how they become the Arabs, and then the Arabs spread out and conquered northern Africa and that area. So there's a lot more to it. I wouldn't look at people in that area today and say these are the true Assyrians, because they're gonna have mixtures all up in them.
All right, and then one more thing, if I may, that I actually heard a young, and she looked black to me, but she's not. She is Assyrian or Palestinian descent. Said that Jesus came from, or they are genetically Jesus, his lineage came, went on to become the Palestinian and Syrian genetics. Like they come from Jesus. And this is multiple places that I've been. That this is not the only forum that I've been on, and this is something that's serious. Like they said that they from Jesus, even though in the Bible it specifically says that he is of darker skin, hair of wool, and they ain't got no hair of wool. That is where I get confused, and where I really like, okay, well then, what is the truth? And I'm a truth seeker, and I would hope that other people are truth seekers as well as you. You are a truth seeker, Can you lay it on the line for me and tell me what's up? I told you I'm from Oklahoma. I got this country accent. I get it, but that doesn't mean that I'm not educated. That doesn't mean that I'm not aware of what's going on.
So basically, kind of like what I was just saying about how the Arab people came about, the Palestinians are the same. They are just they all today, to use this is not a politically correct term, but I'm going to use it anyway. They all mutts. They all mutts. Is what we would call them mutts. Right.
Like they call us here.
So yeah, I mean, I cannot look. When I look through my genealogy, it's a lot of African, but there's some indigenous, and there's some white. I may look like this, but there's some of that in there, right? Those people. So the Israelite people who would have been around during the time frame of Jesus, who was practicing Judaism, who claimed to be Hebrew, they had already been through. They were being conquered by the Romans. They had already been through being conquered by the Greeks, and then the Greeks, they had a process of Hellenization, which means that they forced intermarriage. Amongst their people.
I did not know. It's called Hellenization.
Yeah, it's when they try to merge.
Like Hella, the goddess of whatever the fuck, and like.
No, Helen. Hellenization. Now it has nothing to do with the Norse goddess Hela, but Hellenization. It's just a process that's used historically to describe how, when the Greeks conquered people, they forced intermarriage amongst their soldiers and the regular people. They would find similarities between their gods and your god and try to merge the gods together. So by merging their culture with your culture, then it's harder for you to resist, especially once you have children and grandchildren. It's unlike, resistance is not going to come up. But they went through Hellenization. They were conquered by the Persians. They were conquered by the Assyrians. They were conquered by the Egyptians. They came out of the Canaanites. The Canaanites were conquered by the Akkadians and Sumerians. And then when we move forward in history, from that time frame, you had the development of the Arabs, the Ottoman Empire. You had the Crusades with the Europeans going back and forth in there, and they flipping that a few times.
It just Robert Hood, 2020 something, and they tried anyway.
So it's just a whole bunch of mixture. So okay. And that's it wasn't an isolated area, and that's not even including all the trading. That this is a major trade route, from whether you're dealing with Egyptians, Ethiopians, people, the Yemens, the Syrians, the people, India, the Mongols. This was also a major trade hub. You had people from the Near East, which would be like modern day Pakistan and all that stuff, coming in and out of there. There's just so much damn mixture that to identify one group and say the Palestinians are of the line or the same thing, it's a reach. That's a big reach.
It's iffy. That's like just saying all black people are Native Americans because we come from America. Yeah, they don't,
yeah.
I ain't gonna go there. I'm just gonna say, that's kind of a thing now. And me living in Oklahoma, they just, man, there you go. See what I'm saying? Like,
you made me spill my damn coffee.
That's where the confusion comes from. So it's where we at. To where they're not telling us the whole truth.
No, that's why you got to go.
It seems like
research.
Just like in other countries, like looking outside in, you can see the truth instead of. And I apologize if I'm not making sense. I'm hoping I make sense.
I understand.
Looking from the outside in, you can see the difference. You can see everything. But when you're on the inside, you are confuzzled. You're confused. You're out here. You don't know where you come from, and they tell you don't know where you come from.
Now, for the most part, most people won't know where their ancestry. As far as a massive group, there's always mixtures. Like you from Oklahoma, what a lot of people don't know is that what is the big Indian tribe, biggest one in Oklahoma?
Creek and Cherokee.
Okay, good. I thought so. I just want to make sure. But so
Yeah, you're right.
What a lot of people don't realize that Creek and Cherokee are part of the 5 civilized tribes, and they bought African slaves. And so a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm Cherokee, I'm Creek," but your ancestors that first came into the Creek and the Cherokee came in as African slaves. They might have came in, and then there might have been some getting it later, and that's part of your bloodline, because that's how the Creek got in my bloodline, is through the purchase of a Creek Indian buying an African slave. And then
is that why they call it the Louisiana Purchase?
No, they ain't got nothing to do with it.
My bad.
Yeah.
I'm reaching. Yeah. That's my fault.
Yeah. So when people talk about we all indigenous, that's bullshit. Most of the Black Americans family line that does have some indigenous bloodline in it is because you were either slaves or your ancestor ran away to like the Seminoles, and then they fought alongside the Seminoles against the Spanish and the Americans, and then they integrated into their tribe. So those are generally the only two ways: they integrated in, or they were purchased as a slave.
And this is where I want to ask a serious question, because they are coming back with genetic DNA of indigenous people here that are Black, and I'm talking about in all of America. And maybe I'm wrong. And this is where I need clarification. I'm not trying to say anything or imply anything. I just want clarification, because, like I said, us as young folk, we get here, there, everywhere. They're saying, "Oh, we are indigenous. Black people been here since before, whenever, however, or so and so and so and so, this and that." But that we are the indigenous people from here. I mean, this is where I think, this is where I'm confused, because I thought I was indigenous from here from the beginning. All my people came from here, whether it be from Louisiana, Mississippi, or I'm a shush, but I'm just saying, this is what we are taught. This is what we taught.
Mm-hmm.
We taught this.
Okay, so I don't know who are you listening to, Dane Calloway or somebody?
Yeah, no, I don't listen to number Black people, bro.
Dane Calloway. Dane Calloway. Dane Calloway.
I do listen to outside sources. I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just saying I do listen to outside sources, and I really listen just to see, maybe if there's some truth in it or not. Like I said, I'm scientific minded from the beginning, so I don't trust it. I'm just coming through, and I question everything. So that's maybe that's my fault, or maybe it ain't.
Okay.
I think maybe I should be questioning everything.
And I'm not trying to be funny, but one thing I'm gonna need you to learn. One thing I need you to learn how to do is shorten your speech. You talk long and repetitive, so shorten the speech so that it becomes more concise. Okay. So now, as far as DNA information demonstrating that indigenous people are Black, or mostly Black, is actually not true at all. I don't know where you got that information from, but the most recent DNA studies that I've seen, and which I just went and not trying to be funny, but you were able to talk so long that I actually went and gleaned through a recent DNA study.
That's my fault.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And the fact of the matter is, the study that I kind of skimmed through real quick was a study that was done in 2016. And according to that 2016 study, the overwhelming majority of DNA from indigenous people is more closely related to Asiatic and Siberian people than it is to African people from Africa. Now, hold on with that thought for a second, okay?
Yes, sir. I'm listening.
When you do look at African people who are dark-skinned, like us, like me, rather, we may have a small percentage, huh?
I'm sorry. It's my fault.
But we may have a small percentage of our DNA that has this Asiatic indigenous DNA that is the overwhelming majority of the DNA of indigenous people. And through that, some people are running around saying that we are from them, period. But we're just simply not. Now, there were some, the only places that you do, and this is not from that particular study, this is from a different study. The only places that you do see a little bit higher of a mixture is when you're looking at the ones in the Central and South America. That there will be generally is a higher amount of African DNA mixed in with the indigenous people. But in the Americas, not so much. Now, to say that they are Asiatic and Siberian, what then a Chinese DNA study demonstrated about 15, 20 years ago is that those people actually are more closely related to East Africans than they are related to, than they were just homegrown right there in China. Because he was trying to prove that Chinese people are originally from China, ain't from nowhere else. But he wound up proving that Chinese people come from East Africa. Now take that into consideration. The transatlantic slave trade had zero to do with East Africa. Zero. So we ain't got indigenous, we ain't got much to do with it. Now, Columbus and Cortez and Columbus's cousin did say that when they, now remember Columbus and Cortez, hold on, they never.
No, my bad. I was laughing. I should have muted myself. My bad.
But they never, those people never made it to North America. They all went to Central America. Well, Mexico is technically North America. They all went to Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. In their journals, they said that they saw large black men with the indigenous people, right? So there is the research that's being done to see if there's validity to Africans coming over to trade with Caribbean, Central America, South Americans, but just trade with, right? There is some evidence that will support that. But we not them. They were already people here.
Well, then, I asked this, and I think this is because I heard something the other day that drove me nuts. And he said, this is somebody of a caucus, whatever. And he said, hey, you guys don't know where you're from, so just be with us.
Who said that?
So
Who said that?
And I think that's my biggest argument.
Wait, say it again because it blurred out.
Once again, he said, I'm sorry.
Who is he?
A person of caucus descent said that we are 20%, 30%, 10% of caucus descent, that we should be with them instead of being with our own. And so we should actually, and that's where I started deep diving. If that's where I got, and that's why I apologize to you and your past. Like, I apologize for asking these questions, is because I wish that I knew an answer to that, to where he could just be like, I could just, and not just that question. It's this period. I want to know where I come from. So where then do we come from, so they can't put that over our heads, so they can't hold that to a standing? They be like, hey, you don't know where you belong with us then. If you don't belong nowhere, so you belong with us.
The straight line.
I got loud. I apologize.
Well, not the loud, it's long. The straight.
I'm long with it. I told you, I'm long with it. My bad.
The straight line is the overwhelming majority of your. If I'm looking at this picture and that picture is you, the overwhelming majority of your ancestry come from West Africa. It's just really that simple. You probably got some mixtures of some Creek or Cherokee coming out of Oklahoma, but the majority is straight from Africa. West Africa at that. Would you be able to identify the individual tribe? Probably not.
Hell no.
But most of your DNA is more than likely West Africa. And the most important group that you need to be with is you and the people that show you love and respect. That's it. Trying to be with, because you can't be with every black person. Because you got some of them don't even want to be black. You got some of them trying to be Hebrews and Israelites. And you got some of them trying to be indigenous. And some of them, trying to be Caucasian. You got to find your own tribe to vibe with.
And if I can, I'm going to end it with this. If I can't be with my own people, then who can I be?
People of like mind. Because at the end of the day, we are all just people.
Yes.
The higher thought is we're all just people. We got to deal with some bullshit of people with a lower vibrational thought, but at the end of the day, we are all just people. And race is a made-up thing. Nations is a made-up thing. Those things are created by us, by man. They don't exist. Because prior to about 1457, somewhere around in there, prior to that, people identified more with their tribe than they identified with a race.
And that I do understand. Like say I'm from Oklahoma City or something. I'm Oklahoma Cityan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not from or whatever. So this is my big question. Then how can I teach my children how to be that way? Because in the end, I ain't heard shit about our babies when it comes to this type of conversation. How can I communicate this or this type of thought pattern, this type of speech with my children who are black?
Well, I mean, you do have to teach your kids the reality of what they're going to have to deal with in this world. So this is how I taught my children. I taught my children the realities of what they have to deal with in America, in this world. But I also taught them that the higher thought process is to realize that you have to be better than everybody else who is thinking on this lower vibration simply for your own peace and your own self, for your own mentality. Recognize the fruitlessness of race, but understand you still have to deal with it in certain situations. So I teach them both sides of the coin, emphasizing that for
long term.
Yeah.
Give me the long term.
I mean, the long term.
I didn't mean to be disrespectful. I swear, I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
No, you're not. It's not disrespectful, but the long term. See, you got to get into specific.
I ain't gonna live as long as my children, so I mean, I can't. I am long with it. I'm gonna shut up.
And interruptive.
I did. I'm sorry. I did. I admit it. I admit it.
And you still talking. And you still talking. All right. I mean, so of course from birth I taught my children this is good, this is bad, because they have to learn morality from their parents, right? So I taught them that murder is bad, that everybody has agency and should have the right to choose what kind of life they want to live, where they want to live, how they want to live, and everything should be fair. I taught them that there are consequences to every action, and that you should also be ready to accept the consequences of your actions. Then I taught, and your words. And I taught them that if you want consideration, you have to give consideration. So be considerate. Recognize though that everybody's not going to be considerate back towards you, but that doesn't stop you from being considerate. So treat people how you want to be treated, but don't expect everybody to treat you the same way. And when somebody doesn't treat you the same way, then that's the person who's demonstrated that you need to remove yourself from their presence and don't deal with them. So just take that little concept there and apply it to every aspect of life, that you treat people how you want to be treated, but you don't expect to be treated the same way, but only deal with people who treat you that same way. Right? Know that your greatness is not because of the past, but your greatness is because of who you decide to be and who you are always constantly becoming. Because it doesn't matter if I had a great grandfather, if he was amazing. It doesn't matter if I had a grandfather who sucked ass. I am not going to allow myself to be what they were. So I can say, oh, I come from kings and queens, like a lot of black people like to say. Okay, but are you acting king? Are you acting like a king? Are you being a king? Are you doing what's necessary to be a king? Because if you're not, then that shit don't matter. So it's who you decide to be now. That's what matters. And you have to decide. You're going to have obstacles, but you have to decide, are you a punk and you're going to let those obstacles stop you? Or you going to boss it up and overcome whatever obstacle, whether you got to go over it, around it, underneath it, doesn't matter. Even run straight through it. Right? So it's always about becoming the greatest version of yourself. And part of that is determining who you mess with and who you don't, who you deal with and who you don't. Take some lessons from the past that worked for you, throw away the rest. So that's the longest I'm going to make it, because that ain't what we're talking about today.
I apologize. I did divert. I diverted. Mm-hmm. I can only apologize so much.
That's all right. But yeah, so that's what I would.
I thought this was a questionnaire. So being a questionnaire, I just wanted to ask you a question.
No, you're fine. But just how old are your kids?
18, 16, 5.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and then you got to teach them for whatever age group they at. Your 18-year-old probably don't want to hear a whole bunch of life lessons right now. You know, they need some, like when my kids are all grown, so it ain't about life lessons as much as it is about helping them in their immediate moments of, hey, this is how you run your money. This is a budget. You can follow this, and this is what your end results can be. You can choose not to. And you're going to see a cycle that you go through. I just tell them that, and I let them go out and see what they're going to do with it. Right? My oldest keep going through the cycle. My youngest, he getting this shit together. The oldest going to learn one day, but I can't force it no more. And I'm not going to be all in her, all kind of like all up on her all the time about it. The middle one, just simplistic in life, and I can appreciate it. And she irritates me because she can grow and become much more financially more. I'm just putting this in the money term.
Why did you think? No, my youngest is my daughter, and my middle is my boy. So why would you think that my daughter would be the youngest?
I didn't say. I was talking about my kids.
Oh! I apologize. I was listening. Listen, that's good.
Yeah, no, I was talking about my kids. I'll just give an example. Like when they're older, there's only so much you can do. Now, when they're younger,
yes,
you have a lot more influence over them when they're younger and can point them in the right direction. But eventually, that younger one, but even with the younger ones, certain things are going to hit them certain ways. You can't raise all your kids the same way. Each one of them are a different individual.
Yes.
So they have to be raised differently.
I agree with that.
So it's not their job to conform to our teachings. It is our job to teach them in the manner by which they learn how they learn. So however they learn is how you need to teach.
So yeah, it's more.
Mm-hmm.
To conform.
Huh?
So you agree that they should conform?
No. It is not for them to conform to how you teach. It is for you to conform your teaching, to structure your teaching based on them, how they learn. Like my oldest has to learn by living through it. My middle child can learn by what she will learn more so by watching other people mess up and then not do it. My oldest got to go mess it up. And then the boy, my youngest, he kind of in the middle. But I want to get back to the subject matter. Because we get into parts where I charge people. Some life coaching and parent coaching and stuff. We get into the charge people. So I know he got a phone call, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop so we can go back to our subject matter. And then the dog was getting a little too rambunctious. A little too rambunctious. I saw something that I used to feel Boondocks for as I'm concerned. I know they made you put a name up there. You said that they found a Negro male skeleton engraved in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Said it dates back to 1250 CE. Just by looking at how the current runs and the fact that there was known to be what's called the Atlantic River, I would not be surprised. I don't find it odd that African skeletons or Africans would have traveled to America, the West Africans. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Actually, I think it's very plausible because people have a natural curiosity. There's always somebody in every group that's curious as hell. And let's see how far we can go. Okay, so why ask this question, Fred? Just go ahead and make the statement. Like, I don't know why there has to be a confirmation in order for people to state what their supposed facts are. But of course, eyewitness accounts are like the least of when it comes to evidence. But you're wasting time. Maybe I need to explain that. I'm a very direct person. Just get directly to the point. Like if I would say I got 3 eyewitnesses that prove this, confirming Isaiah was talking about Jesus, I'm not gonna say, can I give you my 3 witnesses to confirm Isaiah was telling us about Jesus Christ's name? No, I'm just gonna say it. And then I'm not gonna come back and waste some more time by saying, confirm is proof and evidence is the case. I would just go ahead and just say it. Who in the hell is the 3 hour? Why you gotta go through all that? Why do we have to go through? I would just say it. Such and such, such and such, and such, and confirm that Isaiah was speaking of Jesus. Like going through all this extra, it don't make sense to me. I don't know. Maybe that's why my channel is not as popular as some of these other people's channels, because I don't go 11 miles around and just go straight at it. Maybe y'all think I'm mean or something. I don't know. I'm wasting all my damn. Scroll up to my other comment. Which one? About Columbus didn't arrive until 1492? That skeleton date back to 250 CE? You don't use that 80 shit. Right, they came before Columbus. What's irritating about that? They came before Columbus. When was that book written? Because maybe it was written after I had already realized that. But I remember when I found out about it, I was like, man, I could have wrote that shit. I already knew that. Kevin, you know I'm telling the truth. 11 times. Like, Fred Thomas, he got 3 witnesses, and he and I wrote additional comments and still ain't said shit about these 3 witnesses. I don't tend to block people unless they are incredibly rude and, you know, make personal attacks towards the people, y'all. I'll protect y'all. I don't give a shit what they say about me. And, you know, James already told us that he got a mental problem. So I don't fault James for some of the things he says because he explained to us that he has a mental issue. So, you know, that's why I leave James alone. Just let James say what James say. I know some of y'all TikTokers don't know who the hell I'm talking about. These are people, James and Fred Jones is on, no, it's not Fred Adams, they on Facebook. But so we're streaming on TikTok and over here is on Facebook and YouTube. Oh, the book was published in 1976. Oh shit. Damn, I was only 5. I turned 5 that year, so I guess not. I guess I must have pulled it. Well, so I realized that just through my own travels and my own research. You know, the first part of that actually is when I found out that the gold tip spears that were found that Columbus brought back were the same type of gold, the gold minerals. That gold came from Ghana. So put it straight, that gold came from Ghana. So that started me on that process. And we had a helicopter that crashed, and it crashed on the Atlantic River, which made it, because like I didn't know the Atlantic River existed at that time frame. But when the helicopter crashed, and when they was talking about how the remains got so far away from the actual crash site, and they were saying it was because and the Navy guys were saying, oh, because we were on the Atlantic River. And so that's when I learned about the Atlantic River, and then I started looking at the water current, how it flows, and so on and so forth. But that book probably explains all that as well. So I wish that would have been a great tool to have back then. And then, you know, I had read, so you go to Barcelona and they have a great, understand how I'm saying, they have a great museum displays about Columbus and his brother or his cousin, his brother. But that don't mean I like that motherfucker. And they got great information about Cortez, and they got the journals and stuff. So I was like, oh. And you go to Madrid and you can see some other journals, you know, you got journals. So I was like, oh, look at this. But that book probably would have pointed me in some directions, get me in certain places quicker. But I thoroughly think that, accept the fact that Black people, Africans came to the Americas to trade. I mean, I'm not quite sold on the Egyptians, and I'm not quite sold on Egyptians going to Australia. Oh, about time. It took you long enough. All right. Since Fred's system can never get on here, let's take a journey with Fred. Isaiah 61 verse 2 cross-reference the Bible versus Luke 1:18 through 20. So let's see. Let me go to first Isaiah 62. So that's part of Deutero-Isaiah. Wait, what did he say? I'm gonna have to go back and forth here. Isaiah 61 verse 2. To proclaim the year of the Lord favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn. Okay. Good news of deliverance. So the Spirit of the Lord God upon it has become the Lord, and he has anointed me. He has sent me to bring the good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, and proclaim delivery and the captive, liberty to the captives, and release to the prisoners, and proclaim. Uh, uh, there's a reason why I'm laughing, because I just want to make sure I'm laughing for the right laughing. If this is what I think it is. So Isaiah 60 in all right. Before I let me. Okay. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. And then we're gonna go over here. And you should know that. All right, and then he said, Luke. This is gonna be so funny, because what you are proclaiming to be your Jesus character. What do you say, Luke 18? Luke 18, no, Luke 1, sorry. So Luke 1, 18 through 20. Luke 1, 18 through 20. Zechariah asked the angel, how can I be sure of this? I am an old man and my wife is well along years. The angel said to him, I am Gabriel, standing in the presence of God. I have been sent to speak to you and to tell you the good news. And now you will be silent and not able to speak until the day this happens, because you did not believe my words, which will come true and come true to their appointment. Oh, okay. Fred Adams. First thing is, Luke, I was thinking you was going to do something, bring me something. So Luke chapter 1, verses 18 to 20 is talking about the fact that the angel Gabriel supposedly went to Zechariah, who was a righteous man, for completed the law. And it is talking about the fact that Zechariah did not believe, because he was old as fuck, and his wife was old, that he would be able to have a child. Kind of like the whole Abraham thing with Isaac. And the angel said, you will not be able to talk until your child is born. That child is John the Baptist. So they ain't got shit to do with Jesus being born, or anything about a Jesus prophecy, since Luke 1, 18 through 20 is talking about John the Baptist and Zechariah. Isaiah 61, verse 2, and it's interesting how you only pick verse 2. But when you read Isaiah 60, which starts the Deutero Isaiah, this is them being freed by Darius from the Persians. Darius freeing them, which this is the acknowledgement that Darius was considered their Messiah, who freed them from captivity and allowed them to return back to Jerusalem. Right? This ain't got nothing to do with Jesus either, or John the Baptist. So I don't even know why you brought that to bear. It doesn't even make sense. That don't even make sense. Maybe what? The nation shall see your vindication in all the kingdom of God, and you shall be called by the new name. What the hell? What is this? You don't even make sense, my guy. Wait a minute, I was reading the wrong one. Let me go back. To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn. And Luke 18 ain't got nothing to do with that. That's about John the Baptist and Zachariah. Do y'all see what ooh. See, they post this stuff and then don't think somebody's gonna go look at it. So okay, so that's failure number one. Isaiah 61 does not have anything to do with the Jesus character. You all up in the wrong sauce on that one. Now he's talking about Isaiah 7, which I already know what he's talking about. Isaiah 7, verse 14. Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child, with child, and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. And we've already went over this 11 times, where it is clearly talking about a woman who is pregnant at the time frame that King Ahaz is fighting against northern Israel and their allies. And he is saying that Ahaz will defeat his enemies before this child knows the difference between good and evil. That is really bad. What's the word? Exegesis. I know the isms part is not part of that word, but it's a bad exegesis of the Old Testament to try to fit that in there, right? And you're saying go to Luke 1 verse 2. Luke 1. Wait a minute. You can't say verse 2. He didn't say that, did he? Luke 1 verse 32. Luke 1 verse 32. Luke 1 verse 32. He will be great, and he will be called the Son of the Most High, and the Lord will give him, and the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end. So the first problem that you have is that you should have started with verse 31. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you shall call his name Jesus. This is where you should have started. That's the first part. Now, the second part is the word there that was used is Alma, which does not mean virgin. When it was translated into the Greeks used the term, well, no, this is not even the virgin part. That's not the virgin part. Shit. That's up higher. The virgin named Mary, which is up in verse 27, which should be rendered as young woman instead of virgin. But this does not show a cross-reference, or nor is it a witness. You can't call these people witnesses. You're talking about just, hey, I'm writing at a time frame. This is 7. I'm writing 800 years later and making up a story about this Jesus guy. So I'm going to utilize a small one verse in Isaiah of a prophecy given to King Ahaz about how he will defeat his enemies. And I'm going to make that seem like Jesus is doing the same thing. If one of the things that you should realize is that the Bible does a lot of retellings, sequels, or now what we call them today, reboots. In the same way that the story with Lot was rebooted in Judges 19. The same way Abraham and Sarah and them having a baby is rebooted with Zechariah and Elizabeth. So they reboot stories in this Bible over and over again, telling you the same story, just giving you a little spin on it. Now, the fact of the matter is, Isaiah 7 was talking about a young woman who was pregnant at that time frame, who had a baby at that time frame. And then the war will be over before that baby comes of age. Luke, and you should have started earlier, is trying to connect that to the Jesus story by using some badass translations. So no, it don't work. And since Isaiah has nothing to do with Jesus, that's failure number 2. Since she wasn't a virgin and she was a young woman, that's failure number 3 on that same one. So no, sir. Oh, and you saying what's this other one? Isaiah 66, verse 6, which is going to be post-Babylonian captivity when they had declared Cyrus their Messiah. Or no, Cyrus their Messiahs, because he freed them from Babylonian captivity. Verse 6, and it's interesting how they don't want to look at the whole thing. Listen, a roar from the city, a voice from the temple, the voice of the Lord, dealing retribution to his enemies. Yes, because we're being saved by Darius. Darius is coming in and Cyrus is coming in and saving us. And we are proclaiming him to be our Messiah. And what do you say, Luke? What? Luke. Cross-reference Bible verse with one verse 23. I guess you're still in Luke since you didn't specify that one. When his time of service was complete, he returned. Now, you couldn't have been referencing that one, so I don't know what the hell you're referencing in the other one. I have no idea who you referencing in the other one. Mm-mm. I have no idea. But 66 has nothing to do with your Jesus character. And you don't want to, they never want to read the whole thing. They never want to read the whole thing. It said, thus says the Lord, heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. So what kind of house could you build for me, and what sort of place could you place for me to rest? All these things my hand is made, so that the things are mine, the Lord says the Lord. But this is the one who I will look to humbly contrite spirits of those who tremble at my words. Whosoever slaughters an ox like one who kills a human, whosoever sacrifices a lamb like one who makes the dog naked, whosoever gain offering like one who pig blood, whosoever memorializes frankincense and one of his blessings, I know just as these are chosen in other ways, and the abomination is taken delight, so I will choose their punishment and bring upon them what they fear. Because when I called, no one answered. When I spoke, they did not listen. But they did what was evil in my sight, and I chose what did not please me. And they chose what did not please me. So they were not following this God the way he wanted them to. Hear the words of the Lord. You tremble in his word, and your own people who hate and reject you in the name of the sake of them. This is talking about these people being disobedient to this God. As far as 66 is concerned. I really wonder, like, y'all hear a preacher say something and y'all just run with this thing. That I've already demonstrated how Isaiah 7 just does not. We've read Isaiah 7 like 3 times so far, and Isaiah 7 just doesn't. It's not talking about Jesus. It's talking about a child back then. So that one's, don't bring that one up again, please, because it doesn't fit. Then you trying to compare to Zechariah being his mouth being closed because he could not speak, he couldn't speak. That has no comparison to nothing in Isaiah. That is more comparative to what in Genesis, when Abraham didn't believe or was shaken about having a baby. So it's a reboot. of the Abraham story, as far as that part. So that has nothing to do with Jesus either. So neither one of your strikes work. They all, every pitch you threw was knocked the hell out of the park. I mean, am I crazy, y'all? I mean, am I crazy? How hard is Isaiah 7 to understand? Which is a big one, because they put so much emphasis on this virgin birth of the Jesus character. Because thank you for the roses. The virgin birth story is not a prophecy for the time frame of Jesus. It was a prophecy that was proclaimed during the time frame of Ahaz, and that it will happen in Ahaz's time frame. How is this hard? What makes this hard to understand is beyond my comprehension, when he clearly says that his enemies will be defeated. And then one of the other one that you was talking about, it said that he will sit on the throne of David. When did Jesus sit on the throne of David? When did he sit on the throne? When did he reign forever, sitting on this throne of David and run shit? It didn't happen. I mean, the thing that's crazy to me is that why would people really have to be desperate in a state of oppression in order for them to they have been desperate in that state of depression for them to just accept this without and knowing that the shit is wrong. And you keep saying that Matthew is one witness. Okay. Do you understand what the word witness means? All right, you gotta know what the word witness means in order to use it. I don't think Fred know what the word witness means. He said no, Isaiah 7 verse 14 cross-reference this Matthew 1:20 verse 23. All right, first you was trying to say it was Luke, and you trying to switch it up to Matthew. You probably need to say it's Luke because I told you where it actually was in Luke. Right? So I gave you an out on that one, but it's not really an out. But the fact of the matter is, even when you look at Matthew 23, it says the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. All right. This is talking about a virgin conceiving at that time frame. Once again, on the slow bus. Isaiah 7:14 says, therefore the Lord will give you a sign. He's talking to the king Ahaz. Look, the young woman is with child and bear a son whose name is Emmanuel. Now, if you just stop right there, it's already telling you that the woman is with the child during the time frame of Ahaz. But then it goes on to tell you that the child, by the time he grows up a little bit, King Ahaz will have defeated his enemies. This wasn't, and even before that, it's saying that this God is going to give King Ahaz a sign. King Ahaz a sign. He didn't say he was going to give the world a sign. He didn't say he was going to give the Israelites a sign. He said, I'm King Ahaz. Even though you're not asking me for a sign, I'm God. I'm going to give you a sign. And that sign is going to be that before this child, over him, with this young woman, this Alma, has the baby grows up, I'm going to defeat your enemies. He's talking to Ahaz. He's not talking during the time Matthew. Now, as far as you claiming that makes Matthew a witness, are you saying that Matthew was alive during the time frame that Ahaz received this from God? Because I don't think you know what the word witness means. Witness means that you saw it. You was there. You experienced it. And on the other hand of that one, was Matthew there when Mary supposedly got pregnant? Was she there Was Matthew there to witness Gabriel telling Mary that do not be troubled, for the child that you have within you is of the Holy Spirit? Was Matthew, the writer of Matthew, was he present? See, I think you need to understand what the word witness means. See, you do, you know, that, like I witnessed my Atlanta Falcons run game and defense being amazing. Couldn't score in the red zone the first 3 quarters. It was okay. But they kicked them a bunch of field goals. I witnessed that boy kick by 5 field goals. I witnessed Bijan get over 100 and some yards. I witnessed that on TV. But I did not witness the Iron Bowl when it was cold as fuck up in Green Bay and they played I think it was Green Bay when they played the Iron Bowl. I wasn't there, so I can't witness it. So you might want to stop using that word witness. You don't have any witnesses. You have somebody named Matthew who had somebody not named Matthew. You had somebody who later on they named it Matthew, who was writing a gospel about this Jesus character. And in writing that gospel, this person obviously knew something about Judaism, but he didn't know a lot about Judaism. You know, I would put him. I can't even put him at my level. I'm gonna have to put him at a lower level than me. He was a lower level. He was like a dude that just walking around who was Hebrew, and then he heard this itinerant preacher, and he was so desperate in his oppression that he was just, I heard this story, and I'm tired of these damn Romans. I'm converting over to this Christianity, and you know what? I'm gonna write a narrative, and in my narrative, I know a little bit about the Old Testament, the Tanakh, and I know that this happened with Azaz, and I'm just gonna write this in the story. I'm gonna write it in the story so that I can create a link between the two. But he damn sure wasn't a witness. To confirm can also be a witness also, sir. If you take that in the broadest sense of somebody is a witness at a court hearing who is an expert on a subject matter and then is presented evidence of that subject matter, and then they testify to the validity of the evidence, that would be a witness. How we identify a witness in court, right? But here's the problem. If the writer of Matthew was put in our modern day court system and sits there and they present them with Isaiah 7 and the narrative dealing with Jesus, first you'll be a bad lawyer to put him up there, but in the cross-examination, the Matthew character would simply look like someone who does not understand how it works, who does not understand the old Hebrew story of Isaiah 7, and would be kind of kicked to the curb, be invalidated as being a witness. But he's still not, because he wouldn't be able to confirm the same thing, because he wouldn't be able to confirm that Mary was a virgin. He wouldn't be able to confirm that an angel came and spoke to him. He wouldn't be able to confirm any of that. And then he would get lost in the sauce when the cross-examination says that, well, the first story in Isaiah is about him defeating his enemies before this baby is of age. What enemies? There is no enemies that's being defeated before Jesus turns of age to know the difference between good and evil. So they didn't defeat Rome. Didn't happen. So that's not, there's no, you can't even say the same situation is happening here. And the only thing he will be, and see, that witness will be confirming that. You would have to be a historical witness trying to confirm that Ahaz defeated the Israelites and the northern Israelites and their alliance. You'd have to be able to confirm that happened and happened within that time frame. That's not confirming Jesus. So it still don't work. So there's no avenue of the usage of the word witness that he's a witness. Right, drawn from water. He did not confirm anything. It's plagiarism. And it's a bad plagiarism. And like I said before, Isaiah 7 used the word Alma, which just means young woman. The Greek Septuagint translated Alma to mean virgin. But if the Greek translators were being correct about it, they would have used young woman, because they know that the Hebrew does have a word that strictly means virgin. So if the Aramaic writers of Matthew intended for it to mean a virgin, they would have used the word Bethula and not Alma. So it don't work, Fred. I understand you want to believe in your. Oh, thank you for the roses that drawn from water. Thank you. Smell. Fred, can you smell the roses that Dawn is giving on TikTok? I couldn't help it. Sorry. Drawing through some roses out there, but I don't think Fred can spell. Hold on, James. Hold on, James. I did not call you out like that. Right? You told us in a live about a year ago, I think, you told us that you have a mental issues. So don't say I called you out. You cannot come out here on a public forum, say that you have mental issues, and then get in your feelings when somebody brings it up. See, if you were to go find something that I said 8, 9, 10 years ago that I'm saying opposite of today, instead of getting mad at you about it, I'm gonna tell you, oh, you know what? I said that back then. Yeah, I was wrong. Or I've acquired new information that I was wrong 8, 9, 10 years ago. So don't get all twisted. Kevin, remember? See, Kevin, remember? Debbie, I know Debbie remember. So don't get all frustrated. That's like, if I can't get mad if y'all say that, oh hell, Coach Ren's not been on here about 3 hours. I know he's starting to get hangry. And when he get hangry, his patience level go from here to right. Don't get mad, bro. Otherwise, you just keep your information to yourself. Just keep it to yourself. Don't tell people about yourself, and then you don't want them to be able to remember it. So, Fred, none of your so-called witnesses fit, and none of them are witnesses. It's just plagiarism. So I need you. But you know what? The thing about it, it's not going to change anything in Fred's mind. So it really doesn't matter. But all right, so I think we beat the hell out of this horse. Yeah, see, Dwayne, no. I don't have any sympathy for a Pab. I don't. And like I tell you also, I'm biased. I have more patience for women than I have for men. You can call me a sexist all you want to. I don't give a damn. It is. I give a woman more grace than I give a man. It is what it is. You mad because I'm calling you out on hell. That's what you mad about. That shit don't even make sense. But I'm not mad at all, Fred. Fred, I actually have sympathy for you. Can't say I have empathy for you. Because empathy is when you can share the thing, right? Sympathy is just when you feel bad for somebody. I cannot share in that. So I got sympathy for you. Am I right about that? Is that how sympathy and empathy work? Yeah, I think so. You know, let's try somebody else because I was about to get off this damn thing.
You are the first participant on this super conference. Please hold while we wait for the others to join.
What the hell?
Yeah, what's that?
What's that?
I don't know. I joined your live.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is. That was funny. That was interesting.
Yeah. I just had a question about your Isaiah is not about Jesus.
Okay, what is that? Is that music is not you? Yeah. That was interesting. It sounded like you have to come. What's your thoughts on Isaiah 53? Isaiah 53 is talking about Israel, the nation, Israel, the nation is the servant. It is not. I know people come in later, so I repeat some of this over and over again. But when you read all the context of Second Isaiah, which starts from Isaiah 40 all the way through Isaiah 59, it is speaking of, especially from 40 up to about 49, it is reference Israel being the servant over and over again. So if the author is referencing Israel as a servant, in 53, Israel is still a servant. So that's what the 53 is. And as we just went over, Isaiah 7 is not talking about baby Jesus. But yeah, and that's the thing, like you'll be in a church and a pastor would just read Isaiah 53, but they will only talk about Isaiah 53. What they will not do is go over and look at and show you how all the other aspects of Isaiah is talking about Israel as being a servant, because they want Isaiah 53 to be about Jesus, right? So as much as they like to say you're reading things out of context, you're reading things out of context, Isaiah 53 is one of those things that they purposely want to be out of context so that they can fit their narrative. There actually is not one prophecy that Jesus fulfills. Not one. He didn't become the king of Israel. He didn't sit on David's throne. When he rode in on a donkey, but that riding on the donkey was not a prophecy. That was a retelling of, that was this God lamenting over the fact that I brought Israel out, and when my son came out of Egypt, talking about Israel, because he had prior to that said Israel was his firstborn son, and brought them out of Egypt on a donkey. And then then he starts talking about in that same one about how they start worshiping all these other gods and doing all this other stuff while they was running around. So it wasn't even a prophecy. That was a recanting, a retelling of the Exodus story. So that wasn't even a prophecy. So some of the things that they call claiming prophecies are just simply not prophecies. Psalms 110 is about David. It has nothing to do with Jesus. So not a prophecy about Jesus. It's something about David. That was about David, not Jesus. But they'll find similar words like, David is on the right hand of God. I don't even think it was David on the right hand. Hold on. Let me go back to that. Yeah. So the Lord said to my Lord, which is this is the Lord is Yahweh, said to my Lord, which is David, sit on my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. So this is talking about David, because this whole psalm is about David fighting against his enemies. So that's not a prophecy about the Jesus character at all. This is simply about David. Because like it's talking about you people will offer themselves willingly on the day that you lead your forces to the holy mountains, from the womb of the morning dew to the from your youth. You will come to you come to. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest according to the line of Melchizedek, and because that is repeated in the New Testament, because they pulled it from this Old Testament, they think it's about them. The Lord is at your right hand. He will shatter kings on the day of his wrath. He will execute judgment among the nations, filling them with corpse. Right? Filling them with corpse. That means he's going to fight, going to kill some people. Right? But that one is about David. And even if when you research it, right? Let's go a little quick over here. Now, of course, if you, and this is one of the things I was going to, I don't know, what do you guys think? I was going to do a thing about how to research these things, and I talked about it a little bit last week. So if you were to, research this particular one, right? I think I talked about it later. When you research these things, right? If you look at you have to look at who's writing it, who's making this statement. If it's answers in Genesis, well, of course they're going to say Psalms 110 is talking about Jesus, right? But if you're looking at, but when the information is coming from your non-biblical references, from people who don't have have to keep this faith and maintain this faith, then the scholarly consensus is that it will be that they are talking about David, right? They are not talking about Jesus. Because even when they talk about Melchizedek, this is in reference to David and Solomon, and with them holding into the Levitical office, right? This is still not talking about Jesus. But if you're doing it from, like I said, based on who is some of them? Let me look at some of them real quick. If you did this based on Faith Baptist College, they're going to say Jesus. Questions in Genesis, Jesus. Paul Tripp is going to be Jesus. I think the first one is coming up. Bible reference. The Bible reference. Jesus. Outreach Judaism. Now, Outreach Judaism, they definitely not gonna say Jesus. So you have to be able to go and look and see who they're talking about, like where this information is coming from. That'll help you to identify whether or not this information is valid. Then it's the quality of the question that you ask, right? So the quality of the question, if you just say, who is Psalms 110 talking about, you're going to get all these Christian references first, right? But if you ask the question a little differently, who is Psalms talking about according to scholarly consensus, you'll get a broader range of information from not just so heavily Christian perspectives, but you'll start to see things that comes from non-Christian perspective. And sometimes you have to go to page, beyond page 1 in order to get there. But because you're going to get some of those same ones from questions in Genesis and all of that. And then if you take that and you go to Google Scholar and ask that same question, you'll get more information from, you'll get the biblical colleges, but you'll also get the information from the non-biblical colleges. Because of course the Bible colleges are going to say that that's talking about Jesus. Ooh, I wonder, listen, I'm curious. So, oh shit, I forgot to put the part down. I forgot to put exactly where. The actual chapter. So if you put in who is Isaiah 7 talking about according to scholarly consensus, because the Google AI is condensing information from multiple sources, based on scholarly consensus, Isaiah 7 refers to it, that is trying to say both to a child born during the reign of King Ahaz in the 8th century BCE, and ultimately to the Messiah Jesus Christ, known as the full fulfillment of dual prophecies. So it's a dual fulfillment of prophecy. So they're going to take that and they're bringing, and this is what I was telling you about AIs. AIs are good, but an AI is going to take information that's being put out by all the sources. So it's going to combine the fact that it's talking about a child during the time frame of Ahaz, because then it'll break down historical content. 8th century BCE is talking about a child born during that time frame. Then it'll give you the messianic content, which is the Jesus interpretation, right? And then it goes down into AI and says the scholarly debate of the consensus, and it'll give you Christian scholars, Jewish scholars on that one. So of course their leanings are going to be towards each one of their independent thought processes on there. So the AI is going to give you both sides of the coin, but it's purely based on what information people have been putting out on the internet concerning that information. So AI is good, but you got to look deeper into the AI to be able to see exactly what it's pulling from and what it is. So then that's when I go to Google Scholars and then I read the actual, read what the different scholars have said on it. And so for the Christian scholars to say that, oh, this is the messianic version of this is the Jesus part, well, you would then have to exclude the idea that the author of Matthew is writing at a time frame knowing of the story with Isaiah 7 and is placing that into his narrative. And have to believe in it and say that, oh, this is all God breathed. So you'd have to then prove, in order to say that Matthew is making a dual prophecy, you then have to prove that God prophesies that and prove that the whole scenario of the birth happened. But you have problems with the scenario of the birth. You can't even nail down when the birth actually happened. So it leaves, and there is no eyewitnesses to this story, to Jesus' birth story. So is it more than likely a reboot, a plagiarism, or is it something that actually happened? And critically thinking, it's plagiarism. It's a reboot. It's somebody who's writing about this Jesus character and they want it to fit into their narrative. They want to make Jesus fit into the Old Testament. I want to know that other one. I want that other one. Because that's another popular one, but I don't remember. Oh, I should have known. I knew that. Don't you hate when you think you try to remember something but you can't remember where? And then you see it and you're like, shit, I knew it. Also, you can see a sign if a woman is pregnant. That's no sign. It's not. So this is another popular one that they love because Matthew, and see, this Matthew is horrible, but Matthew kind of sort of quotes this one. When Israel was a child, so Israel is being referred to as a child. This is Hosea 11. When Israel was a child, I loved him. Right. So it's referring. So just in the same way as the servant and the he is servant, he's going to be bruised. In this writing, that you can refer to a nation of people as an individual, in the same way you would refer to an individual. You have it here in Hosea. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. Now he has called Egypt. Israelites his firstborn children, right? He said, the more I call them, the more they, but Christians stop right there. I called them out of Egypt. Stop. Let's put it in context. The more I called them, and it's talking about them, because it's saying Israel was a child. The more I called them, the more they went from me. They kept sacrificing to Baal and offering incense to idols. Yet it was I who taught Ephraim to walk, and I took them up in my arms, but they did not know that I healed them. I led them with cords of human kindness, with bands of love. I was to them like those who lift infants into their cheeks. I bent down to them and fed them. They shall return to the land of Egypt, excuse me, and Assyria shall be their king, because they refuse to return to me. I swore the sword rages in their cities and consume the oracle priests and devour because of their schemes. My people are bent on turning away from me. To the Most High they call, but he does not raise them up. How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, O Israel? How can I make you like Adamah? How can I treat you like Zebulun? My heart recoils within me. My compassion grows warm and tender. I will not execute my fierce anger. I will not again destroy Ephraim, for I am God, and no mortal, the Holy One, in your midst, and I will come in wrath. So this whole thing is talking about, recanting. Hosea is recanting how Israel, who is the child of this God, and that this God loved him to bring him out of Egypt, Israel, the nation. But then they went from him, they started worshiping idols to Baal and to other incense to other idols. Is this not what the Exodus story is talking about? And thank you, drawn from the water. Exodus 4 states Israel is God's son. So when they try to say that Hosea 11 is talking about Jesus, it's not. It is talking about how the storyline goes of them coming out of Egypt and they turn their back on this guy, over and over again. They kept turning from it. And then he bring them back and they turn again. It's not about Jesus. But see, Matthew, lacking in understanding, the writer of Matthew, lacking in that understanding, takes Jesus and places him in Egypt during the reign of Herod. But Luke, not being of that mindset, they went back to Galilee. Ain't no Egypt in there. Which creates then a contradiction between Luke and Matthew. And even the baby killings. The baby killings, I believe, is a Matthew not understanding that in Daniel, when the women were weeping because of their babies because of their children, Daniel was saying, yeah, they're weeping because their babies, the children, the women are weeping, but understand that they will only be gone for 70 years. Matthew, the author of Matthew, takes that and creates the whole Herod wants to kill all the babies scenario. And the women weeping. It also takes that and looks, so Matthew was like terrible at understanding the Old Testament. So there's nothing about, see, I was hoping that like somebody was gonna come on, they're gonna be like, oh, Hosea 11. I was like, really? I was waiting on somebody to come up with Hosea 11. I knew it in my head, but I wasn't sure where it was at, but somebody always lead me to the bullshit. Miracles do happen, like I stated, by faith and not by spirit. Prove one miracle happened. Prove one miracle. Oh my gosh, why do they do this, y'all? Okay, first, y'all be claiming these miracles happen, but none of y'all can prove any of these miracles ever happened. Well, my experience was, and then if you can't do that, your other playbook thing, your pain has blinded you, which is understandable. And I can't explain the why of why things happen, but that does not negate the fact that Jesus is Lord. Once you start reading the Bible, God start opening your spiritual eyes. God bless. First of all, I don't have any pain. Never had any pain from church. Never had any pain from pastors or anybody like that. There was no church hurt within me. And the thing about it, at 9, I started reading the Bible over and over and over again, and then studying it deeper. And that's what made me walk away from the Bible, is reading it and understanding it. And then all of God works in mysterious ways. But I really wish y'all stop with the bullshit about people having pain. Some pastor, I don't know who came up with that shit, but y'all just roll with that. If I have any church hurt, it's the church hurt, or y'all keep trying to claim that I got church hurt. And I didn't say that. And then you can't produce a miracle. I don't need to, because there's no such thing as a miracle. There's only cause and effect. What you call miracles are things that you have no idea where they come from. You don't know the causation. It's probably going to be my last guest. Austin, you there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Are you over 18?
Yes.
Okay. And are you a believer?
I'm a Christian, yes.
Okay. So your statement or question?
Well, my question to you is, you said you read the Bible and you studied it, and that's what enabled you to walk away from it. So what passage or passages would you say that you read or that you studied that led you to walk away from the religion out of the Bible itself?
Well, I read and studied the whole thing. And there's a multitude of things that made me walk away from it. I mean, to point out something simple is simply not saying that this is the one thing, because it wasn't a one thing. It's a combination of all of it, right? But for instance, one thing is the contradiction in the birth of Jesus, based on the Luke version and the Matthew version, right?
You said the contradiction between Matthew and Luke. Okay. What contradiction do you speak of?
So, and according to Luke, and let me add in that beyond just reading the Bible, I also went and studied the culture of the time frame and the politics of the time frame and the history of the Bible coming together, right? So, and I say that because one of the contradictions you have to take into the historical accounts of the fact that Herod the Great died either in 6 BCE or 4 BCE. Okay, so according to the Matthew version of the story, Jesus was born during the time frame of Herod. The Luke version says that Jesus was born during the time frame of the census conducted by Governor Quirinius of Syria, when Herod Archelaus was disposed of. Well, that happened in 6 CE. So there is at minimum a 10-year gap between the death of Herod and the census done by Quirinius. There's no way to reconcile that. They were both, Jesus could not have been born at those 2 different times.
So they're actually, I've actually heard that contradiction before. I'm an atheist, a former atheist, by the way. There have been a series of debates actually from multiple scholars about that. And if you give me just a second, I actually had some notes on this from my studies. There's no contradiction there because it's talking about 2 different, there were multiple kings that were named Herod. Jesus was even brought before a king named Herod when he was 33 years of age. Before Pontius Pilate authorized his execution, he was taken to Herod first because he was a Jew. So there's no discrepancy. I was actually thinking you were talking about the discrepancy of the virgin birth itself. But there's actually not a, give me 20 seconds. I'll actually, if I can find these notes in my computer, give me just 1 minute. Because that was actually one of the issues that I had with the Bible myself when I was reading it.
Okay, he has to go look. He's looking up his notes. But what he was just saying, as far as there being multiple Herods that was king, does not. That doesn't work, basically, because then you can still place this Jesus character being born at different time frames as well. None of them happening during the census, and there was no King Herod during that time frame.
It's one of the days of
You were breaking up right there.
Matthew chapter 2 says that Jesus is born under Herod's reign, and Luke talks about the census that Quirinius did around the same time frame. And Luke just says he was born in the days of Herod, which is it's a generalization, whereas Matthew gives Luke talks about the census, which was labeled as in the days of Herod in the scriptures, whereas the birth of Christ being related directly to Herod's being alive during Christ's birth this is talking about around the time that Jesus was an infant versus the time that he fled to Egypt. So there's actually not a contradiction, because at his birth, if we assume from a biblical perspective that Jesus was born around either 4 CE, and some scholars actually place his birth between 4 CE and 1 AD, if you will, from the as we would break down the calendar. So it's not actually a contradiction there.
Okay, so the reason why it's still a contradiction, and because it was definitely under Herod the Great, is because when you go down and you get into Matthew chapter 2, right, it then tells you that Herod had died, and then that when they were told to get up and go back to Israel, go to the land of Israel, they had heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in the place of his father Herod, right? So that's why we know that the Herod that's mentioned in Matthew 1 is Herod the Great that Matthew is referring to. So the idea that it could have been different Herods and all that sort of thing doesn't pan out, because he's
well, no, not that. No, it's not just that fact. It's the fact that Quirinius was actually a commander in that area prior to 6 AD, and it was his census that had taken place. He was actually commander, and during that time of the province where Christ was born, for about 6 or 7 years prior to Jesus' birth.
No.
So that still, once again, doesn't present a contradiction based on evidence, unless you just want to not believe that. I mean, that's fine. But I mean, it's what
it's not. And see, the thing about it is, the fact of the matter is that Quirinius was never in charge of any area of Judea prior to that. He was a commander in Syria and Turkey prior to that, but never in Judea. He then became governor of Syria in 6 BCE. Now, I mean 6 CE. Quirinius, there's no evidence, no documentation that shows that Quirinius himself performed any census other than the one that is mentioned in Luke. So that the idea that there may have been other census is a possibly, maybe, could be, but there's no data that supports it.
It's very important to understand that these two gospels are focused on different details surrounding the life of Jesus. Now hold on.
Wait. I wasn't finished. I wasn't finished. Because at the end of the day, it is still saying that Matthew is still saying that Herod died, Archelaus took over, and when they returned from Israel, Archelaus was still king in Judea. But the census that was done by Quirinius was done after Archelaus died. So it still puts Jesus born well before the census, and well before the census, and even after Archelaus has died.
So no, that is again, that's a blatant misstatement, because
it's right here in your Bible.
Hold on, brother.
No, I can't let that slide, because
I'm not letting you slide, because what you're doing is you're modifying history based around a narrative that you want to be true. So once again,
wait, hold on. It is not. Remember.
Don't get excited.
Remember, I'm the host. Okay.
I hear that.
Okay.
If you're gonna lie on the internet, let's not do that.
See, stop talk, sir. Austin.
Let's examine the non-biblical.
Okay, so I have.
How you want to meet me? That's true.
Because Austin.
Brother,
we either gonna have this based on, this is my show, or we're gonna have this, or we're not gonna have a conversation.
Well, I have it based on the truth. I don't care about it being your show. I tell the truth.
Well, here's the fact. Here's the fact of the matter is that when you
facts, you're giving me a confirmation by. So you wanting to refute me in.
Okay, so I cannot have someone sit up here and tell me that I'm lying about the time frame that is spoken of in Matthew, when it clearly says, and I'm going to read it for you, Austin, because I understand that you have your confirmation bias. Matthew chapter 2, verse 19. This is not me. This is not my narrative. This is not a narrative that I want. This is what your Bible says. After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream. And this is all I was trying to read to you, so you can stop saying that I'm lying or trying to make this into my own narrative. After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up and took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus, there was only one Herod Archelaus, was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod. Who is Herod Archelaus' father? Herod the Great. He was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee and went to live in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what they said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. That's not me making up a narrative, and you're calling me a liar when I'm just, and even though you was calling me a liar and you wanted to try to overtalk me, loud talk me, and that is not going to happen. The only person who has the rights to interrupt people is me. And my only reason I was interrupting you before you go on and on into your diatribe is the fact that your Bible, not me, your Bible says that Herod Archelaus was alive. Now, his history shows that the census was done after Herod Archelaus was disposed, and the Roman government was like, "You can't be the king no damn more." So no, bro. I swear they be so caught up, but they don't want to hear what their Bible actually said. Ike,
you are so patient. You are so patient because I mean, I guess it's the situation with a lot of Bible believing Christians. The narrative has to mean what they want it to mean. You know, for them, it's like a Pokemon. You know, it must be whatever they make the Pokemon to be. Mm-hmm. So if you're not explaining it the way they want it to turn out, then that means that the Holy Spirit is not in you enough to understand English grammar. You know, you need Holy Spirit to understand grammar. And they are talking about story because, you know, the story about the birth, the said birth of Jesus is just a story. And it's a narrative. Even Luke, the writers of Luke, mm-hmm. said that as much as every other person has written their own account, I myself, you know, being there and have investigated all the accounts and are now laying in order. So everybody was writing their own stories, just stories. And they were stories written by people that were not there. They were writing stories, you know, I mean, the scriptures is just a book of stories. Most of the stories were made up mm-hmm. because they were driving a narrative. From the Old Testament, with the Old Testament God, Yahweh, you know, to the New Testament and, you know, the representative of the God who they call Jesus, they were all stories, and they were all stories told by people that did not have a first-hand account of the so-called deity or the so-called Son of God that they were representing. They were not there. The writers of the Gospel, mm-hmm. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, no, they weren't. Did not see, none of them saw Jesus. None of them saw Jesus. So they were writing a story that was handed down to them. Paul did not see Jesus, and Paul is the one that actually established how Christianity today will be. So, you know, Christianity is based on the writings of Paul. Yeah, and Paul did not see him. It was just by vision. So he changed it from first-hand account into, oh, now visions are okay now. So it's going to be ruled by vision. So he turned it into something that is going to be driven by what he saw in a dream, you know. Yeah. But Christians have a way of looking at stuff. They don't like the history. The history must be what the Bible, what they claim the Bible say, not what actual history says. Yeah. Thank you, man.
No problem. And I just find it funny how that gentleman who was a former atheist, now Christian, got so emotional about the whole thing and just want to try to, you know, shout me down and say that call me liars and everything based on a story that he now believes, probably because he had some emotional moment that they then call miracles and things of that nature. And of course, if he was born in certain other countries, he would have cast that emotion over to Allah or Brahma or some other god. But because he's probably sound American, because he was probably born and raised in America, he cast it over to Jesus. But I do have patience for right now. It's starting to wane right now because I'm starting to get hungry. So that patience is going to go away.
No, I mean, no, I guess it's your military discipline and training. That because I'm like, oh man, that has to be the Holy Spirit of the Bible working in you, making you to be that patient, because you know it's going to be challenging to be hosting a program and a guest is trying to control the narrative. And it's not like you don't know what you're talking about, and the person is telling you, "Oh, you're right. You're wrong. You're wrong." Just zip it until I say my piece.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen.
That's why I say you really have the patience for it, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're never going to control my narrative, and then they're not going to be able to make a statement that I'm lying and all this kind of stuff, and then I'm just going to sit here and let them keep rambling on. I often will let people make long statements, but not when you're going to call me a liar and try to say that I'm trying to produce a narrative when I'm looking at the information right in front of me that's telling me that your book says that Herod Archelaus was king when they returned back. So it had to be Herod the Great, who was his father. So Herod the Great don't match. That's why you will find I don't know what church that dude go to or been under, but you will not find it anywhere else where anybody with 2 brain cells would say that Herod the Great was not the king, was not the Herod that Matthew is referring to, right? Because he makes that plainly clear by saying that Archelaus is his son. So yeah. But shit, I'm about to get off here anyway. It's lunchtime.
It's okay. I just wanted to come in and say hello.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
All right, you take care and have a wonderful day.
All right, you take care as well. And everybody else, y'all take care. Y'all have a good day. As a reminder, I got to throw it out there one more time. We meeting in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. We're having the Free Thinkers Meetup. If you go to my YouTube channel at Coach Renz, RENZ, the number 33, you will see the link to the Drury Hotel. You want to be at the Drury Hotel because being at the Drury, you get a free breakfast and you get a free supper. It's going to save you some money on the food costs. But also 2 of our events, three of the meetups while we're here over that weekend is going to be at poolside. They ain't saying we get in the pool, just poolside. But we're going to have some conversations and a little sound bowl. We're going to do that there. And then we're going to meet at Devil's River Distillery on Friday night. And then on that Saturday, we're also meeting at the Japanese Tea Garden to have a Q&A sessions. And just conversation, just a good talk. So go and do it now. If you want the discount, you got to sign up by September 29th. You only have to reserve your room. When it comes up and say you put your credit card in and so on and so forth, it's not going to charge your card, right? It won't charge you until you show up, all right, until after the weekend. So I look forward to people being there. But other than that, hey, keep sharing all the videos that I produce. I'll be producing some more videos after I eat lunch. And garbage truck. Do I need to take the garbage out? No, I don't. I'll be sharing some videos, but please share those videos. I greatly appreciate it. Continue to, I thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for all the roses and supporting the channel, especially Drawing Water. Thank you everybody who supports the channel through Cash App, being a member, being on Patreon, being a subscription holder on Facebook, member on YouTube. Thank you guys very much. So I will see you guys tomorrow. We go live every day, noon till 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So I will see. Done my job and planted the seed. That seed got planted on concrete in Texas in the middle of August. It's funny. They always think, "Oh, I planted the seed. I did my job." No. Y'all have a good one. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And I'm out.